Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo.
Welcome back to what? Speaking from the shadows, every color has a voice. My name is Franklin, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
And I am Shan, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. What's got you fucked up?
For this week, what has me fucked up is just money.
Okay.
Money.
Okay. If I had it and I could just live comfortably and like not obsess about it or always try and make more of it and just like exist and be comfortable in my life, that would be great.
Period.
But, you know, that's not the world we live in. So moving on.
You know what it feels like? For me, it feels like the rat and the cheese.
Okay, never getting it.
It's got me fucked up because we have to do so much managing on our own as humans. And then we have this whole other fucking lining on top of us. Money, finances, living while it's so fucking expensive. Living is expensive.
Cost of living is wild. You know what I say? Mm-hmm. I say it's amazing because my rent goes up every year, but my salary doesn't. And it's just like,
Ain't that funny?
Oh my God, you know? Wow.
They just make it more difficult.
More difficult. Because, you know, we working to make money so that we can pay to live. So we can keep working to make money so that we can keep paying to live. Mm-hmm. We talk about this.
And I love it. I love it because we have a lot of feelings. A lot of feelings about it.
Many feelings.
Yeah, so that's what's got me fucked up, trying to figure out money, making sure things are in line and in order, and making sure that I get to a place that I once knew. Yeah, this is a year of growth. I mean, every year is growth. We all grow every year.
Growth.
Period. What has you fucked up?
Parents who do not prioritize their children. That has been something coming up, and I had a conversation today that was relevant to the topic, and it just infuriated me. And I just feel like if you're going to have a child, you make that decision, right? Take care of them. And if you're not, let someone else. I'm going to digress on that one because we going to be here all day and it's going to be the podcast topic.
Look, just know that I said nothing and that moment of pause was needed. I said, I'm going to stay quiet. This is enough. You need to take care of them. It's unacceptable. You're not dealing with an object. You're dealing with a person who has all similar things that you do and some things maybe you would like to act like you don't have. But
human beings. You're raising a little human being, hopefully independent thinker, but probably not because families are cults. Anyway, moving on.
So today we have the topic of teenage years, like I said, and now we're going to go through our quotes for the week.
Would you like to share your quote first?
Sure. So the quote that I have is a quote that I wrote today because I was just, I was thinking about the topic and I'm like, this is how I feel about it.
Okay, author.
No, we know.
Okay, author, go ahead.
So the quote says, society teaches us to be monolithic, to practice uniformity. Deviation from the norm causes an imbalance of power and control. Too much freedom, equating escalating individuality. The systems in place have evolved from mandatory to being a state of constant survival. I know it's a lot, and it sounds like it's a whole paragraph, but it really isn't.
You said I'm going in.
I'm going in.
And I'm going to go hard. And I'm going to go hard.
Yeah. So that quote just definitely sat with me while I was writing it. I was like, this is how it feels. It's how it feels. People aren't allowed to be themselves. We're taught to be a unit, the same.
Not even a unit. I personally would push back just a little bit on the unit just because that implies a unity, which we ain't got.
We act like we do. So
Okay,
what existence do we actually live in?
pretending.
Well, what is your quote for today?
My quote is, and I looked through quite a few of them. It's easier to floss with barbed wire than admit you like someone in middle school.
Jesus.
And the reason I picked that is because it really depicts how brutal adolescence can be. And I mean, it's some of the best years in terms of forming and the contribution to like forming your person and personality, right? Even if you don't maintain the same personality, you're going to let this version of you inform who you are moving forward. For most of us, probably anyway. So, that growth period, though, hurts like a mother.
That quote is perfect. No, it really is. Because you bring up middle school years and the part of telling someone you like them. Now, that's a little hard. That's a little hard. I don't know if you experienced that. You know, I think, yeah, I don't know if you experienced that. Like feeling like, oh, I want to tell this person that I like them. I can't do this because I'm what?
What are you?
Afraid.
So, here's something you may not know about me, and I don't think you do.
Not me saying no before you told me.
You just feel it in your spirit. I went through a phase where when I liked someone, I had to tell them. And I still have a little bit of that in me, but I'm able to have some discernment between the desire to tell them and just feeling a lot of feelings. But this phase I was in high school though, not middle school. So you be scared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was scared because I'm like, listen, it's like my queerness is a shadow behind me running towards me. And I'm like, listen,
Talk about speaking from the shadows, okay?
I'm telling you, that's what that shit is at. It's like it's with you and it feels heavy. Or it felt, I mean, in some spaces it still feels heavy today, but it's heavy. That's a heavy experience. Yeah.
What are your questions this week?
So I'm just going to start off with this, okay? I recognize that I wrote like somebody reading somebody's textbook out here. We in college. So just bear with me in these questions and y'all gonna laugh. Y'all all gonna laugh.
You say y'all are students.
Yes, and that's how I framed this. So now I'm over here like maybe I'm not teaching a course,
Okay, you said professor.
but it can't be.
Take notes, students. Okay, audience members, take note, listeners.
Thank you for entertaining me. So I have a section on here.
You know I got you. No, I got
We
you.
got each other. We got each other.
Okay, come on, reciprocal.
As relationships should what?
Should be.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
yeah.
said reciprocity. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Very key point to always bring up. Because why not? So I also have a section after this question that I wanted to kind of talk about just to get your viewpoint on this because we're talking about changing. We're talking about adolescence. We are just figuring ourselves out, and then that also applies to who we are today. So do you think that this little imbalance that I was talking about before creates like a cognitive dissonance for people? Whether we're talking about people who have identities, right? People, because it's like you have people now who want to act like some identities are new and they were just brought up and they're confused, right? And then on the other side, they think that the world should stay as it was when they grew up, being delusional, and for so long, it's like it's bliss for them, but it's not. It's blinding.
Have you heard of the phrase ignorance is bliss?
Yes. Yep.
When you don't know, you don't know. So,
Yeah. So that's what I was hinting at, like living in that cognitive dissonance, and then also a person of whatever identity, um, especially being children. I'm thinking about being a child, the dissonance of am I accepted? Oh, in this space I'm accepted, but at home it's not the same.
bitch. Before we get too far into it, do you want to explain cognitive dissonance for the
Thank you.
people?
Yes, of course. So, cognitive dissonance is a term for the state of discomfort felt when two or more modes of thought contradict each other. The clashing cognitions may include ideas, beliefs, or the knowledge that one has behaved in a certain way. So, just two contradicting ideas, experiences, thoughts that kind of puts you in a state of confusion, and it's like you're navigating two spaces at once.
Like, I love you, but I hate you.
Yeah, precisely.
I want things to change because I want to be better, but I want things to stay the same because we're good.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Just for the people.
It's a huge one. That's a huge one that comes up.
Since we talking about relationships and adolescence and
Okay.
you can. Okay, so does the expected uniformity cause cognitive dissonance between who we want to be and who we have to be? Is that what you're asking me? Okay. Yes, there is a huge cognitive dissonance. I think so. I do. I think so. I'm gonna go ahead and say you think so too.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
100. I mean, it's like I said, it's like living in two worlds. Just imagine feeling one way in one space and then feeling differently in another.
Okay, so what you hit on, I wanted to bring up because, and I was talking with myself about this morning. When I was younger, growing up, and this is like very early adolescence to all the way through probably mid high school. I went to a private school when I was younger, and I lived in, some would consider it the hood. I called it hood adjacent. It was a safe place to go. But, we had things going on. And the whole block knew what was going on.
Right.
Okay? But it was friendly for the neighbors. Like there was community. I had friends in the neighborhood. Yeah. Say more.
No. Listen, you better, it's like I felt chills in my body because I'm thinking that's what y'all have in common. It's like this trauma, and you have it in common. So then that builds community. It feels like home, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Code switching. I'm sure our audience, our listeners, know code switching, but I'm going to give an example, if you will, because this is the way I speak naturally most of the time. And then when I get around my family, maybe I start talking like this.
Right.
And maybe my words they're not really sharp no more. But that's still me. It's funny. One of my exes said that they like to watch me and like experience me around my family because, like, you know, I change and it's endearing to watch or something of the sort. But it makes me think of that, you know, because there's a difference when you are in your element, so to speak.
Yes.
And then there are different elements. So I was who I was in school and I was who I was in my neighborhood. And see, the thing for me, I went to private school. Most of my neighborhood friends went to public school. I learned specific things. And in my hometown, the U is the O, the letters in words. So instead of dog,
Doug.
that's a Doug. You want a hot dog?
Yes. Yes.
I pronounce the O as an O. You want a hot dog? You see that dog? Pit bulls, pitties, my favorite dogs. So I got made fun of. That's my point. Long story short, long way around. I was what they called an Oreo. And I grew up hating that term. And I still dislike it to this day. Because, number one, you're implying that education and articulation are for white people.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I'm very black. I look very black. There was no way of me ever being white. So stop disrespecting my fucking identity.
Yep.
And I'm a kid. You are giving me a complex. Thank God, not the complex where I think I'm high and mighty and better than you because I speak differently than you do or like different things because pop and country that's white music. But I grew up watching country music videos with my grandma. I digress. I'm going to step down off my soapbox, okay? I'm stepping down from my soapbox and I'm wrapping this up. I knew that I was different. Always.
Right.
For different things, for different reasons, right? But I've always known that I was different. And a lot of that is because a lot of people made sure that I knew I was different. At some level, I wanted to be me, but I also wanted to assimilate. I also wanted to fit in. I knew who I wanted to be, but I also knew that I wanted people to like me, especially growing up. So there was a huge cognitive dissonance there.
Yes.
And feeling like you are in an unsupportive environment to be yourself is so detrimental for a kid. I'm fortunate. I have my journey, my path, and I am who I am today. I'm an adult. I'm very secure in who I am for the most part.
I agree.
Thank you. That's me. That's not everyone else's current life or the way their story unfolded. And they may have had, very similar experiences in the feelings.
I like that. And part of the segment today, I wrote down a question relating to how we're impacted by it, what we notice about it today, right? Because obviously then we had no control over it. It was unfortunate that was what was happening around us. It's common.
Right.
It's a norm. You're bringing a lot of good points, and it makes me think about, psychosocial development. Erickson comes to mind. Come on. Yes.
Don't even get me started with Erickson and his life stages, okay? Talk about shame
Yep.
and doubt.
Yep.
Come on. Integrity,
Come on.
inferiority. But may you run through the stages just quickly for the people.
The first stage is trust versus mistrust, right? If needs are dependably met, infants develop a sense of basic trust. Trust in the parent, you know. Second one is autonomy versus shame/doubt. Toddlers learn to exercise will and do things for themselves, or they doubt their abilities.
So you don't let your child do nothing by themselves.
No.
Oh, okay.
Next one is initiative versus guilt, which is preschoolers learn to initiate tasks and carry out plans, or they feel guilty about efforts to be independent. Next one is industry versus inferiority. Children learn the pleasure of applying themselves to tasks, or they feel inferior. And then we're getting to the one you were talking about.
This the meat.
Come on, this is the one. Identity versus identity confusion. Teenagers work at refining a sense of self by testing roles and then integrating them to form a single identity, or they become confused about who they are. Come on, tell the people, because this is what you felt when you were talking about your teenage years.
Listen, I don't know where I got my steadfastness from, but according to many people, I have always been exactly who I am. When I was a baby, about one or two, they said I would go to the top of the stairs, throw my cup down the stairs, and my granddad would get it and get me milk and give it to me.
Wow.
Spoiled,
Oh, yeah.
doted. I was the baby grandchild. I've always been exactly who I am, and I clearly know what I want, whether it's a cup of milk or attention, because I want a lot of that from certain people at certain times. But I am very particular, and I want what I want when I want it. There are caveats to that because life, right?
Yeah.
Had I not been who I am, I don't know that I would have ended up in such a secure place with my identity. I know the way I speak is unconventional to some because of how I look. That's not my problem. That's not my judgment either.
No.
I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I will never be white.
No.
So if you wanted to eat me, all you had to do was ask, but don't call me an Oreo.
You better let them know they hungry. Hungry. You so mad? You want a taste of me? You big mad. Come get a taste of me. Like, what the fuck is this? It seems like growing up, you're taught to believe what others say, right? You're taught that whatever people tell you about yourself cannot be challenged. So,
Could have no validity at all whatsoever.
nope.
But you respect what they have to say.
Mm-hmm. And those years, you feel that strong, and it's easily absorbed. It's easily absorbed
Come on, peer pressure.
from society.
Come on.
So the next stage is intimacy versus isolation. Young adults struggle to form close relationships and try to gain the capacity for intimate love, or they feel socially isolated. Next one is generativity versus stagnation. The middle-aged discover a sense of contributing to the world, usually through family and work, or they may feel a lack of purpose. And then the eighth stage, or final stage, integrity versus despair. When reflecting on his or her life, the older adult may feel a sense of satisfaction or failure. That goes through everything.
The lifespan.
And I hope that some of this, I mean, I think it has to be integrated within parenting courses. It has to. Like, there's no way.
If not all of the stages, then definitely trust versus mistrust, and the earlier ones up through role confusion.
Yeah,
Identity and role confusion. Yeah.
absolutely. So the reason I bring this up is because it all leads to the questions, right? So first question is, in your adolescence, what identities were voluntary or involuntarily hidden?
Calling me out.
Calling us out. What you mean?
Okay.
What you mean?
Okay. And you said this earlier, your queerness,
Yeah.
and very similarly for me, because I think that I've known since I was very young, and I did not really fully admit it to myself until adolescence. As beautiful as that is, poetic. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I knew, and some friends knew, because for a while, and I think I said this in the first episode, I was like, I don't have a label.
Right. Yeah.
I knew, selective people knew, other than myself. And that was it until I became very out and loud and proud when I was 17 and a little baby freshman in college. Because even though I almost failed out academically, socially, I was getting like a B minus. Okay, I was slightly above average.
So you bring up your queer identity, right? Would you say that that one was voluntarily kind of put to the shadows or involuntarily put to the shadows?
Both.
Yes.
I grew up in a religious household. My mother was and is very religious. And I knew that certain things, certain types of people were not praised or accepted or liked or approved of.
Yeah.
I knew that doing certain things were wrong. Wrong. Air quotes. So at a point, it was voluntary.
Yeah.
However, there was some of it that was involuntary. And some of that is other people choosing to ignore my expression of my identity in that way. That lack of acknowledgement, I would consider a sort of hiddenness. Not in every circumstance, but generally for me. What about you?
So for me, I instantly create like different categories in my head, right? I think of me socially, right? Because I think that I have come more into myself and my personality as years have gone by. But at that time in my life, I felt like a robot. I felt like a robot. Like the way I maneuvered throughout the world felt robotic to me.
In adolescence?
Yes.
Up the what ages? What age range would you say?
Well, I mean, even beyond before then, probably like 7 and up.
Okay, we're talking late childhood.
Late childhood, yeah. But I think that it became much more aware and visible to me in middle school and high school. Cause
Come on, latency.
yeah, oh yeah, there was a shift that happened, and I'm like, damn. Now looking back, I was hella robotic. I was doing what I was told to do, right? Not that that has to be a bad thing, But it got to the point where it felt like this is my purpose. This is who I am.
Doing what other people say and expect is your purpose and your reason for being here.
Mostly with my parents.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was that part of me, right, developmentally in the social realms. I had hella friends. And I don't usually know, and that's how you know that I've grown, because I don't really say things like that. Now I'm saying it, and I didn't feel ooh, God, when I said it. Before, I would have felt like, okay, am I being cocky? But no, it was my experience. I had a lot of friends.
State in facts.
Yeah.
And you still, I'd say you still have a lot of friends. But
Yeah.
your personality is magnetic.
I've heard that so many times. No, I have.
No, good. Yeah, it's true.
And I've come more into that and accepting that. So thank you for saying that.
Of course.
Because in my adolescent years, I had a lot of friends. And I always think of my best friend at the time. She would always point out, like, oh my God, you saying hi to everybody in the hallway. Rolling her eyes. She wasn't mad. She was like, this motherfucker. And I'm like,
She was just mad. She wasn't mad.
She was mad, not ma'am.
Mad.
Not mad at all. So I felt very robotic because socially I had a lot of friends. And then at the same time, I felt that I was only close to a few of them. Which, I mean, it's in the larger scale, it's I guess, a norm, right? But I felt that my identity at home wasn't the same as my identity in school, socially. That's where the dissonance came in.
So it's like you were who you wanted to be in school.
Yeah.
An authentic version of yourself.
Yeah.
And at home, a maybe less authentic version of yourself.
Most certainly. And that's where at home, it was the voluntary, I would say, right? And at school, it was involuntary. But there was a sprinkle of voluntary.
Tell us more.
There's a sprinkle because you just never know. I always felt like, oh my God, I'm feeling these things, but I'm robotic. Like, my purpose is to make sure that my parents feel proud and that I don't bring any concerns academically. So I'm going to be fucking stellar at school, right? And making sure that at home, I'm helping out. I'm doing laundry. I'm folding everybody's laundry. I'm making sure the house is clean. I'm helping her. I'm going to work with her on the weekends. I'm taking care of the siblings while I'm trying to do my homework and still get stellar grades. What the fuck?
That is a lot of pressure.
That created a little sprinkle of voluntary because I'm like, oh my God, will I be fully accepted? Some people, a lot of people know. That whole coming out experience can be a podcast on its own. Just know that. And I had a guy who was my friend supposedly turn my coming out experience as a competition. Those were voluntary and involuntary for me. And also within my queer identity, it was definitely in the shadows, definitely not seen. And I think that a lot of my traumas were masking their way or blending in a way that wasn't helping me.
So we're both artists.
Yeah.
Was your talent something that was hidden for you, voluntarily or involuntarily?
I would say that it wasn't a good or bad thing. Okay. I would say that it was a blend of both, but one of them, the involuntary, I'm gonna be a little loose with, and I'll explain. I did not start singing until 7th grade. I had a friend who was singing, and then I was like, ooh, that sounds nice. I sang, and I was like, what is this? Instantly, 8th grade, I was in that choir. It's so deep in my heart because it was involuntary because it felt that my parents were too preoccupied with work and making money and making sure we were okay that my interests kind of faded. So it was indirectly put in the shadows, right? It wasn't meant to be there, but due to the circumstances, that's where we ended up. So I didn't get to accept it and nourish it as much as I needed to. Because now I would just be like, oh, over there.
Okay.
And just because. But I'm not going to do that. So, voluntarily, I think that at home, there wasn't a space for me to sing. I mean, it wasn't something that we did. My family's very musical, and my uncles sing and do all that. But it didn't come to be till my adulthood. Kind of flourishing in it, and, well, at least what I consider flourishing in it now.
I would say you're flourishing in it.
I know we're touching on a lot of different things, right? We could easily stay on the surface and talk about, oh, socially this and that, right? Talk about identities here and there. But we're also touching on things that people don't really think about. Artistic development, I think that that's a huge part. Because as an adolescent, you're trying so much. You're trying to see what you like.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Some children have resources and abilities to really acknowledge and cultivate and nourish that talent from a younger age. But that is not all of our experiences.
You remember that article from Psych Today that was talking about artists that to develop that sense of confidence and to not be impacted by what others are saying are people who feel more secure in it. There was somebody was feeding, providing enough to make that person feel that they could do it. And that's not to say that there are hella people who don't have that experience and still are out here being bomb as hell. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
Do you think that your artistic part was involuntarily or voluntarily put away?
Yes. I think part of it touches that space of not feeling good enough or adequate enough.
Yeah.
Or adequate, period. And I didn't think that I was very talented or as talented as other people, and that still may be true, but I am still talented. And I recognize that now, and it took me a long time to get here. So I grew up in church, and one of my friends at the time, young girl, like I think a year or two younger than I am, could sing her ass off. Still can. Beautiful voice. And that intimidated me. Mm-hmm. I knew I didn't sound like her. And I knew that she was really good. I sang a little less. But we were on the choir together, youth choir. And there was a third friend as well. And we all harmonized very well. I have this one memory very distinctively. Mm. And my sister told me that, like, we did good. With other things, it is just a fact of life that I am gifted in certain ways. Yes. But I don't or haven't generally acknowledged it. Like my ability to write, for example, I've been writing stories since probably middle school or early high school. And I had created a story, like while I was actively in the story, I was letting my friends read it.
Yes.
It was very cute. Very cute. But that was that. And I published poetry on like Blogspot because I'm aging myself. But there was a certain level of anonymity that I maintained, a certain distance. My writing is very vulnerable to me, specifically my poetry, generally. So I protect it, and I protect that part of me because not everyone deserves my vulnerability in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
And okay,
Without a doubt.
yes. And while I do publish a lot more now, there are still things that I don't publish or show anyone. But for the most part, I do publish most of what I write.
Which is some good ass writing.
Thank you.
Yeah. You recognize that. It's so important.
Took a while. So that's singing and writing. There's a sort of academic talent as well. There's that element.
Oh, yeah.
Part of that is because I went to private school and I had amazing instruction and class ratios were excellent. I got the time and attention I deserved. I could not write my S's when I was 4, and that's how old I was when I started school. Pre-K 4 teacher, Mrs. Lee. Hi, Mrs. Lee.
Hey, girl. Hey, Mrs. Lee.
She would dot the S, and I would trace over it and then write the rest of my name. And I have one of those papers still because my mom's a hoarder, low key, and I took one from her because I wanted to have it. And blah 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 blah. Huh?
Nah, blah, 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 blah.
Blah blah blah.
I cannot. You talked about the piece of paper with the S and the dot, and you were like, "This is a memory I want to hold on to." And today, I think you hold on to memories too, whether it's things you write,
It's so
things
funny
you're given.
you say that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I journal a good amount. So I document and I have letters that I write to my future self, and then my future self writes a reply back to past me. It's so cute. I think I have my next one in 2026.
wow.
Maybe it's 2024. It may be 2024. And if not, I'm going to write one for 2024. Because dirty 30, baby.
Yeah, you gotta start it. You gotta start it. Start them 30s right.
Okay, anyway, I have diverted us.
That's all. I was just saying that you hold on to those memories, and you still do that today. So my next question is, what was asked of you but never modeled? Yeah, that one. I know that one's deep, strong, heavy.
That's like the ingrown hair question.
Come on.
Like, wow. Painful.
As you can tell, you know how I was definitely in it.
You were in it, okay? In it. With the "ta" at the end.
And I'm gonna toot my horn a little bit. I wrote all of this after I came out the shower, and I was just sitting there for like 5 minutes,
Thinking space.
thinking cap on.
Come on, talk about school.
Thinking cap-
About school.
Thinking cap on.
Put your thinking caps on, children. You gotta put it on and then you strap it. Did you strap yours underneath?
No.
Oh.
And then you turn it on. I never turned it on. There was no button.
There was no cap.
Nothing.
Now no cap means something different. Part of me says healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
because I think that was an expectation of me. Ill-equipped. No role models. What?
The parts were not there. The parts were missing. And they could not recognize. It was something that they just didn't, it wasn't something that they had experienced fully. Because I think that you can have a sense of security in different areas of your life, but have a lower sense of security or no security in areas of your life that might be more important. Right? Do you have any memories of a specific event when you were like, oh, what the fuck? Like you're telling me to do this, but you're telling me not to do this, but you're literally doing it right now.
John.
Who is John?
John is my father. In lay terms.
That, yeah, it's the expectation of respect for me, but not receiving it or being seen as a being whose memory will automatically, it's like Men in Black. They flash your face and they think that the next day you wake up, everything that happened the day prior was not important.
Nothing significant happened.
Right, nothing. And it's the quick switch up for me. We were just, oh, you're okay now. So you're modeling that I should just get over things. Even if it hurts me, it's not a normal process to have.
So your question is, what was asked of you that wasn't modeled?
Mm-hmm.
What you said made me think of things that were modeled and not asked. Like no one asked it of me, but this is social learning theory is essentially what I'm getting at. It happens. It's what I'm around. It's what I'm grasping onto. It's what I learn. It's what I express. It's what I do. It's all I know.
Yeah.
Until you grow up and you broaden your horizons and your world gets a little bigger than just your nucleus. And for a lot of us, you expand. You're like, oh, other points of view. Oh, other ways of living.
Yeah.
Oh, other belief systems. What a concept. So the things that were modeled,
It's
the things that become,
what was asked of you.
yeah,
What was asked of you.
yeah, the things that were modeled but not asked, and those are the things that we do a lot of the time until we are older, wiser, learn better.
Yeah.
But tell me about the things that were asked of you that were not modeled.
I guess I touched on respect because it seems that a lot of children are not allowed to express themselves and to tell their parents how they feel or how their parents hurt them. But then you're asked to be respectful. You're asked to not show that because it's perceived as you doing too much. It's not that deep. But in reality, you don't want me to disrespect you. You're making it clear that you don't want me to disrespect you by belittling you. But here you are doing it to me and telling me to stop.
I don't have to respect you because you're a child and I'm an adult.
That's what it is.
I deserve respect. And I don't have to give it to you because you're just a fucking kid.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been a societal shift to that in between in some ways, and I don't in different cultures it's different, but generally their voices are being honored. They're being respected as little like beings who can make their own decisions. or at least contribute to the decision making of their life. I'm very glad that the shift has happened in the Gen Pop, or even if not the Gen Pop, in the media and what we see. We're respecting kids a little more. We're letting them pick out things like their haircut, what they want to wear. Please tell me more about your lack of respect, or the lack of respect that you were given.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up some good points. You brought up being able to do what you want with your hair. I mean, if you want to add the layer of gender on there, that's very thick as well. Because I think about, even wanting to grow my hair out in my teenage years, no, unacceptable. You're cutting your hair, right? Because, I mean,
You gotta look like a nice young man.
You do.
Okay.
You gotta look like a nice young man. You gotta keep your hair kept. It has to look how it's supposed to look. It can't be unruly, because if it's unruly, then it's drawing too much attention, and people are talking about you, and they're saying that you have no one to take care of you, that your parents don't care. So automatically, it's a reflection of your character, your anxiety. Yeah.
Keeping up appearances.
Yep.
There's this performativity.
Yeah. It did not escape. It did not escape you. And now I look at even my siblings, right? My brother kind of wanting to do things with his hair, and me kind of challenging that perception. I'm like, that's just hair. You're telling her to put her hair up. Or you're telling her to put her hair up because you think it's all around the place, because you make comments like that. Or is there another reason? So there's a way in which you're asked to do things that you're like, I'm just trying to be. This doesn't represent me all around. This is just an aspect of me that I can't control. Because you're born with that.
Listen, I'm not going to get on a soapbox about hair because society got me fucked up. But actually, everybody got me fucked up on that one for different reasons. But I definitely agree. I definitely agree.
Would you say you have any other areas or anything else you would want to add to that question?
Nothing that comes to mind. I think about what was modeled and what wasn't modeled. Oh, the expectation of sobriety from children who grow up in environments where drugs are used, alcohol is drank, is still a drug. And you don't think I'm about to be out here doing them? Squeeze me. And right, there are other factors at play, peer pressure, all that jazz, but this is my experience. Do you have any other areas of things that were asked of you that were not modeled?
I have things that have been asked of me lately that were never modeled.
Tell us.
Showing a certain level of affection to those who raised me. Being emotionally affectionate, physically affectionate. And I'm like, that's a little hard one for me. I'll show you in other ways. And you need that, it seems like you care about that. So maybe I should make myself a little uncomfortable and help our relationship grow a little bit, right? But that wasn't fully modeled, and now it's asked of me.
So I am going to assume that you did not grow up in a very physically affectionate household. Did you say I love you?
No.
Okay.
I had to be the initiator.
So that's something that's been...
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's, yeah. So now it's like you want these things. You see other people, you see a mother and their teenager being affectionate, and you're like, why aren't you? I always have to, I always ask myself, why are my children not affectionate with me?
Were your parents affectionate with you?
No. And I bring that up all the time. All the time. And the way to cover that up is to say that they brought food and shelter. So that's the only thing that was important. But that's an experience that they had, right? Times have changed. People are starting to understand more. But it's not the only thing people need to live. Okay. So it's like, yeah, modeling is consistent. Modeling is consistent from childhood up until adulthood, and it continues. It never ends. It never ends.
Right. May I back us up a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Because what you said reminded me a lot of my aunt. She had said that my grandparents weren't very affectionate, which is funny because my experience of my grandparents is incredibly different. She said that when she had children, she knew that they needed a level of affection. And she knew that she wanted to tell her children, I love you. And it's so funny. This came up pretty organically, but I asked her how she got so affectionate if she didn't have that. And we ended up in this conversation, but I'm not going to relay all of that because it's unnecessary. But my point is there has to be someone in or some generation to break the cycle if there's then going to be an expectation of breaking the cycle.
Say it again.
How do you expect your child to break the cycle if you didn't break the cycle? Now, there are instances where those things happen. However, especially when we're talking about affection, and if I didn't get it, I either really want it when I'm older or I really don't want it / it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, and something that I've told them too is, take some time and let your children develop to the point that you're at now. Don't expect so much so fast because you're going to overwhelm them and they're not going to want it. It's going to be a burden to them. You don't want it to feel like a burden.
It's a task.
Yep.
Something, just one more thing I have to do.
Distancing from that turns into disobedience in their eyes because it's too much freedom, it feels like, right? And all of this is connected, right? Because you bring up the fact that your aunt, you said, how did you learn that? How did you become so available emotionally when that was not presented to you? It's all generational, and it all comes from the foundation, our development.
Yeah, for Black people, I'm in this country because that is my family's journey. There wasn't a lot of space to be soft with our children, and by that I do mean their children, because my ancestors were slaves and we had to survive. We were in survival mode. That is not, we can't be soft.
There's no time.
There's no time. There's no space. However, while we are definitely not where we need to be as a nation in those regards, we do have some space to be more gentle, more delicate with our children, our babies. We have to be. Because the alternative is detrimental to the world, especially when you talk about unity and progression of a nation and the world at large. Because a bunch of people who grow up without love and affection don't end up being the warmest, usually.
And learned behavior apparently can be adjusted if you put your mind to it. That's the perception. That's the perception. You felt that. You felt that because that's how the fuck, that's the shit that gets me. You are what you were given, right? So don't tell me that I'm not what I was given.
Now, do we want to go here, Franklin, because we going to talk about the expectations of you and role in your family. And so because you've broken many a generational cycle, break one more. And that's just my very
Break one
objective perspective. And I just literally just thought about it, you know, because you are a counselor, right? You you have high emotional intelligence. Okay, make another face. You have done things that those before you have not. You are first generation. You are the example.
Yep.
And that is a huge, huge responsibility for a child. Even though you're a grown child, your role, your rank, especially, right, in the family unit.
First grandchild. First grandchild. I have to say it again because I felt a drop in my body.
You gonna say more or how you feeling?
I'm feeling good about that. It's like I know. There's one thing for me to just say it, and then there's another thing is me sitting with it and being like, damn, yeah, that's really what happened, huh? I am a model for the family.
Yes.
And this,
Come on with it.
God, it keeps going. And I'm really trying to be on this topic, but this is so good.
This is.
And you know what I do? I find a way to connect it back each time.
Come on.
Every time.
Yeah.
But it's so good. It's so good.
Conversations are dynamic.
Yeah.
They don't have to stay in one place.
No.
We have a topic, right? We have a main focus, but where the conversation goes is where it goes, baby.
Where what? Say it again.
Where it goes.
Okay, let me stop being silly. I recognize I sit with it, and yes, that is the truth. I, in multiple of my identities, am the first or the one that has the most of. In this podcast here, y'all, and let me be an example, please. Please feel free to highlight what you do and how good you are at it, because I am sitting here like, damn. Yeah, I need to take a moment and recognize this shit here, and I'm going to do it. I am the first to go to college, to get a master's. I am the first grandchild with a good chunk of talent. And I'm going to say it again, a good chunk of talent.
Own it. I love it.
I think that I am talented in so many ways. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I want to get stronger in all these areas. It's hard to, but I feel that I've gotten a good grasp of my culture. I've gotten a good grasp of my language, the music, the dancing, the singing that comes, right? Because that's been passed down. From what I hear, it's been passed down through generations too. So yes, I just feel that there's a lot that I need to acknowledge, and that I do possess a lot of qualities that I don't recognize. And people in my family highlight it, and sometimes it feels like it's a pressure. The singer of the family, and I'm like, pressure. Because if I do it, I'm going to want to do it the best.
And that is something you put on yourself.
because I want it. I'm gonna give you it all, and it's not a like a. It has to be the best. It has to be the best. It's the. This is me. This is what I can provide, and what I can provide is some high quality shit if I put my mind to it. Yeah, I just think that I want to sharpen. I would want to sharpen it, and if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability, which sometimes may be unreasonable, but to the best of what I can give, where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that you have a great work ethic and you are driven and motivated, and that is obvious and apparent to people who see you do anything. You have things going on. You are passionate about what you do, whether it smack your face off, whether it's professionally in your career or extracurricularly in your leisure time. Besides you needing to realize your greatness and just kind of exist in that for a moment.
What you're saying is that you just want me to recognize what I have, what I've been given, and live in it.
And live in it.
I will.
It's not cocky to accept the fact that you are a great human being with an amazing work ethic.
Yeah, no, that's not cocky at all.
And if it feels cocky, then just rely on the fact that someone else told you first.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So, what's the final question?
What are the psychological ramifications of those experiences? Looking back now, how have they impacted your life? How are they still impacting your life? So I think that I've been impacted by continuously doubt myself, which I think a lot of this podcast has shown me based on what you've said, right? And the way you've challenged me today. As humans, we have to be challenged, y'all out there. Just some things will take time to allow yourself to be challenged, right?
Mm-hmm.
But some other things you're like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Yes, I'm going to do this. And you accept it. So for me, second guessing myself and my abilities, right? And I think it's just a cycle of me not paying or putting enough time into the things that I am good at and that I love. So then I just became a norm, whatever. So there's that. And then the way in which I engage with people, building deeper relationships.
For a lot of my life, up until very, very recently, sometimes the little voice in the back of my head was the loudest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel that.
I'm not enough. I'm not black enough. I'm not queer enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not light enough. On and on and on and on and on. I am inadequate. That is one of the biggest I can even think of. And that is so big that it causes everything else to not come to the surface of my brain right now. Stares at each other.
I cannot with you.
That's what we doing. We just staring at each other, just like living in that after moment.
Yeah, because you gave good examples.
Thank you.
It's like you took all your identities into one. Yeah, and even adding to the relationship component, I think that for me, the modeling of affection with men was not modeled well or modeled at all. So now it impacts my relationships with men. And that's something that I'm working on and trying to figure out. Yeah, I think that also that it brings up a good point for the modeling part. All right. Okay. Do you have anything else that you would like to say?
I have a question for you, actually.
You've been writing this whole time. Go ahead.
Calling me out on the pod, okay? I have two questions, actually. The first and the main, I guess. How did growing help your cognitive dissonance? Whether it's growing up or growing mentally, socio-emotionally, etc.
It helped me to understand different perspectives, right? In the state that I'm currently living. So you brought up the voice in your head before. Mm-hmm. And I think that throughout the years, that voice was so strong before growing up. And now the voice, it's like I nurtured it enough to the point that it's able to calm down and think of the other perspective. Mm. And that's how I kind of manage my anxiety and manage my thoughts. If I'm having thoughts and they feel like a lot, I'm going to have to sit with it for a while and process it fully. And then I will come out of it like, that was what's going on. This wasn't going on. And even in moments when when I'm stimulated by something and I'm reacting, I instantly communicate it to myself. Mm. You don't need to react. You're defensive. This is unproductive. It's just identify you are defensive. I said, okay, cool. Thank you for telling me. Calm down. So that's how my dissonance has shifted now as an adult.
You have that kind of manager, that manager in your head trying to manage you. Mm-hmm. Which is not a bad thing. I think it can get a little murky in the water at a certain point, but I think with the examples you gave especially, I think that it seems to be a generally good thing for you.
Yeah. And even with what you're saying, obviously there are some parts of me in some interactions that I have with certain types of people where it might be more difficult or much more layered and I have to do more work.
Mm. The work that's never ending is the work on self.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I talk to myself a lot.
That's not foreign from what I just said. Yes, we be talking. It's okay. Hell.
Listen, it was always going to be okay.
Period.
Because I be having some bomb-ass conversations with myself.
Hitting.
And I am able to, now at this point in my life and in my journey, I am able to call myself out, which is much of what you just said, especially that you're being defensive part.
Mm-hmm. Took you where? To church?
Took me to church.
Come on.
Took me to church. Because I'll say, I catch myself now. I catch myself and I'm like, oh, you want to talk about that? What's going on? Why you so defensive? Why you so defensive? And I credit my current therapist and my previous therapist for that because they were asking the real question. The real.
They were 100.
Cap at 100 the whole time. No cap. As the kids say.
Oh my God.
You know I gotta throw it as the kids say in there.
You do.
I always gotta do it.
Well, you definitely have had some healthy relationships with your therapist.
Thank you.
And have a very healthy relationship with your current therapist as well.
Thank you. I think my current therapist is probably like your favorite of my therapists.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because you met my last therapist, but you haven't met this therapist. That's hilarious.
It's like I feel the energy of your therapist. That's all.
You really do.
I do. I feel it.
God.
I don't need to be in the space, but I feel it. It's like I'm creating a human in my mind. I feel it. It's so great.
They're wonderful. They are wonderful. Anyway, enough about them. What age or stage would you say helped the most in terms of your cognitive dissonance experiences?
In improving it or understanding it, grasping it?
Yes, in relation to like the last question specifically.
That's a really hard question. I'm trying to pinpoint.
Thank you.
And it kills me because not me being big mad because I want to have an answer already like I'm in an interview.
You said I need an immediate response. No one else did. No one else
Prepared.
said it.
That's what my mind was like. Prepared.
Prepare.
Pyropower the outcomes. Intimacy versus isolation, which is a sixth stage, and that is early adulthood. Early adulthood. That is the time frame that I would bring up because that's when I started to start to see the lights turn on, the reflection of who I am, and to be curious about it. Be like, okay, so this is how I can start challenging it. I need to start seeing myself as other people see me, right? And that's going to take time. But I think that me being 21, 22 is not me being nearly 27. So that right there for me.
Well said. Very well said.
Thank you. You?
I would say identity versus confusion for acknowledging more of the dissonance, and then intimacy versus isolation, and much of to what you just said, for making sense of it and learning how to navigate it and use it to my advantage.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you bring up when you recognized it, because that is so important. And you're just sparking memories in my mind. Yeah. Because from a young age, challenging certain things and seeing dynamics, that's what you're describing. And you're like, okay, there's something fishy about this here. This don't seem right to me. This has got to change.
Is that what you sounded like in adolescence, or is
Yeah.
that what I sounded like in adolescence?
I mean, somebody. I agree with that. And that was definitely a huge part of my development as well. Identifying that and just being the tiny fixer.
A tiny fixer for other people's problems, for everyone's problems, for what?
For immediate family problems. Well, I think at that age I was mostly playing the role of the one who absorbed. I was switching between different roles growing up, and now I can definitely identify all the roles that I was fulfilling. Moderator, scapegoat, golden child. But now I'm back to like golden child. I'm like, I've lived all of these. So in each stage, if I want to put it that way, right? Each stage, I was helping to fix something else. I was recognizing more because I was living in different perspectives.
That's a unique insight. That is a very unique insight.
It's wild. Life is wild.
Life is wild.
Well, do you have any other things that you want to talk about? Any other questions?
I don't have any more questions. I didn't write anything else down.
I'm weak with you today.
What?
Okay, you ready to close out? So this week I am ready and I know what song I got. I know what song. The song is I Am Woman by Emmy Molly. That song is dynamic. That song is creative as hell.
Powerful
The
vocals.
powerful and the shifts. The shifts in the way. I just have no words. So talented in so many ways. And that song pops, okay? And if you haven't heard it, please go
Pops
because
off.
who put me on?
Who put you on?
Who put me on?
Who put you on? Tell the people who put you on.
You did, baby.
Hey.
On.
Put you on.
All the way on.
Okay, I have two. One is Perdida by Big Pig, Biigpiig. And the other is A Letter to My Younger Self by Ambar Lucid, Ambar. Lucid, Lucid.
The first one is Lost, Perdida. Perdida, oh, I'm ready. And then the letters to my younger self. Oh, God.
Which is so funny because it's fitting for
Right?
fitting for the topic, but it's really you'll hear what I mean. There was one day I found myself just singing the lyrics to Perdida. I just wanna lay here, and I was like, "What the fuck is that song?" And it's so funny because the name of the song is the essence of the song, but it's not. It is not repeated heavily through the song, so it's not something you would immediately think of. Is the title of the song? I was calling the damn thing. I just want to lay here.
Can you look up that song for me? The one that says and you're like, what? Now you know that's not the name. But I know what you're talking about. And that's enough information.
That's what Google said when I looked it up. Or wait, maybe it was straight through Spotify. I don't know, but I was like, I need this song. It's big vibes, you know. It's big vibes for me. So I just put it on and I go, you know, just like, it's the most mellow shit in terms of like music and rhythm. And it's like big vibes. And then the lyrics just fire. So it's my favorite.
Well, thank you for introducing me to those. I live. You better. Music is just a great way to communicate with others.
Ugh, so good.
So this brings us to the end of our segment for today. As we said, we hope, like last time, that what we are talking about and all the topics that we bring, you know, that you can take a piece from it and that you can feel that a part of you is heard, or that, you know, we're giving voice to what has made you and maybe areas that you might have not recognized.
Yeah.
Because we are all at different places and we all learning and trying to grow in this world that we don't know what this world's about, but we trying to figure out and just live our lives.
Yes. Well, we are available. Join us in the conversations. Hit us up via email at speakingfromtheshadows@gmail.com. Follow us and engage with us on Instagram at speakingfromtheshadows.
Yes.
And until next time, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. And we will try to post on all platforms for y'all. Feel free to email us if you come across our podcast and you're like, oh, they popping. I'm popping too. I want to join the popping game. So send us an email, whether you have topics or you just want to talk to us about topics that we've brought up. Because this is a conversation and you're also part of it. Never forget it, baby. You are just as important.
Yes. Do you remember what we said at the end?
Always remember, define yourself for yourself.
Use your voice and be great.